Welcome to the FedLife podcast with Dan Sipe from Serving Those Who Serve. In this podcast, Dan draws from years of financial experience to help federal employees overcome challenges that every Fed can relate to. Join us for this journey as we reach, teach, and serve to help you make the right financial decisions. Now, on to the show.
Hello and welcome to this episode of the FedLife podcast. I am your host, Dan Sipe. Additionally, I'm the branch manager here at Serving Those Who Serve and Lee Sipe and Associates. I begin, as I always do, by saying thank you. Thank you for taking time from your day to listen to us. We see those numbers going up. It's very gratifying. But also, thank you for your service to me, to my family, to everyone in the country. You don't hear it enough. You will always hear it here. The other thing that you will always hear is the guru, Ed Zurndorfer. He is back with us again as part of our ongoing mission to reach, teach, and serve you. And as I always do, at the outset, I have to say the opinions of our guest, Ed Zurndorfer, are not the opinions of Raymond James or Serving Those Who Serve. This podcast is presented for information only and not intended to be taken as advice. All listeners should consult their personal advisors before taking any action. Once again, we're following Ed's FedZone articles as one more way to reach, teach, and serve you. But wait, there's even one more way to learn from Ed, and that is the weekly serving. Every week, we will deliver the best of Ed, Jen Meyer, Ed's webinar partner, and Benefits Ben right to your inbox. So do not miss out. See our subscription information on the YouTube page for this podcast. Be sure to sign up. You will love it. Now, today, we're continuing our discussion on continuing FEHB in retirement following Ed's 2 FedZone articles. So, Ed, in our last installment, we covered the rules to be eligible to continue FEHB, and now we press on into the benefits, costs, and how feds can make changes. So, up first in your article is the benefits and costs. So, what will the costs be, and how do we pay them?
Great questions, Dan. When a federal employee retires and is eligible to keep their federal employee health benefits in retirement, they pay the premiums the same way that they did as employees, namely, but it's deducted, in this case, from their annuity check. They're paying the same percentage of the premiums as they did as employees, namely, a federal retiree who is receiving either a CSRS or FERS annuity will be paying on average 25 to 28% of the plan, the FEHB plan premiums, and the federal government is paying the other 72 to 7. I should say 25 to 28% of the premiums, and the federal government pays the other 72 to 75%. Those premiums are deducted from their monthly annuity. And I got to tell you one thing I'm just looking at, did not point out in the article, the premiums are being deducted from their after-taxed annuity, as opposed when you're an employee, premiums are being deducted from your gross salary. That's called premium conversion, and annuitants are not allowed to participate in what's called premium conversion, in which the premiums are deducted pre-tax. And please do not blame OPM or the Federal Employee Health Insurance Program for that. That is an IRS rule, not a OPM or Federal Employee Health Insurance Program rule. It's an IRS rule.
Gotcha.
Note that retirees always pay their health insurance premiums on a post-tax basis.
Gotcha. Okay, so we're set up. We've retired. It's coming out of our annuity. I don't know. I live in a world where things aren't perfect. So what happens if that gets messed up?
Well, let's do an example where it might get messed up. And this could be relevant over the next few years, that someone may have retired, let's say a couple of years ago, and they get a modest FERS annuity. And the annuity right now is sufficient to pay the monthly premiums. But with inflation and healthcare costs expected to go up, it may turn out that their monthly annuity is not enough to pay the premiums. I mean, I hate to say that, but it's possible. So the annuitant can do one of two things here. Number one, they can switch to a lower cost federal employee health insurance program, let's say they are maybe in a low deductible FEHB plan. They can switch to a high deductible health insurance plan in which the premiums are going to be cheaper, or they can go to an entirely different plan, different type of health insurance plan in which the premiums will be cheaper. Another option is the annuitant can pay the premiums directly to the retirement system. So that means for CS Rest Affairs annuitants, they will make arrangements to have the premiums paid directly to the Office of Personal Management, OPM.
Okay.
It would be like a direct debit from a checking account or a savings account. So this way they pay their monthly premiums that way.
Gotcha.
These are called direct FEHB program premium payments.
But even with those, there's still a feature if somehow that got messed up where somebody can remit, correct?
Yeah. And once they make that election to make these direct payments, Dan, they cannot go back to the other way. And if it turns out that they're messing up, that they maybe missed a payment or didn't have enough in the checking account or savings account that month to pay the monthly premium, they're going to have to remit the payment within 15 days,
Gotcha.
days, longer if they're working overseas, in order for their FEHB program coverage to continue. Okay. The last thing you want to have happen here, Dan, is for you to lose your FEHB program enrollment because you didn't pay the premiums. That's the last thing you want to have happen. Okay.
Agree.
Because once you're out, Dan, you can't get back in.
Yes. So it's a one-way door. And we kind of touched on this last time, but if a Fed's eligible and ready to go and they want to retire and keep FEHB, they really don't have to do anything. They just take it through with them.
That is correct. There's no forms to fill out, including the standard form SF2809, which is the health benefits election form. In other words, that form, the SF2809, was filled out originally when the person was hired in federal service. And if they plan to continue their federal employee health insurance in retirement, and of course they're eligible, then that form does not have to be filled out saying, now I'm a retiree, continue my coverage. No, that form will not have to be filled out.
Gotcha. Okay, so if that's the default option, there must be procedures to cancel or make changes, right?
Yeah. If you're going to cancel, and Dan, I cannot emphasize enough, a federal retiree should never cancel their federal employee health insurance.
Agree.
Like you said a few moments ago, once you're out, it's a one-way door. You can't get back in.
Yep.
You are out. Is that the case when you're an employee? No. If you drop out of the federal employee health insurance as an employee, let's say you want to join a spouse's plan, maybe your spouse works in private industry and they have a better plan. Well, if it doesn't work out with your spouse and your spouse loses their coverage, then you could re-enroll in the federal employee health insurance program even outside of the open season. But that is not the case when you are a retiree.
Gotcha.
You're out. Now we're going to find out, and we'll talk about this in a few moments, I think. You could suspend your federal employee health insurance.
Yep.
There is a big difference between suspending it and dropping it.
Sure.
Suspending means you can come back in.
Gotcha. So over and above canceling, what if we're making other changes? Like going from, and I guess somebody could have, minor children when they retire, moving from a family to a self plus one, that type of thing. Talk us through that.
Those changes can be made even outside of an open season. If there's called life events, a child turns 26. They're no longer, and I should say it's a non-disabled child, because if someone has a disabled child, a child that was disabled before age 18, that child can stay on the parents, the federal employees' health insurance forever.
Gotcha.
When they turn 26, that disabled child will not lose coverage under the federal employee health insurance.
We know that very well in this house because
I know, Dan.
Yep, my late father's
talked about that, and I'm sure you're very happy about that.
Late father-in-law. Yep, absolutely, 100%.
Go ahead.
No, continue.
So I know in my own case, I remember that when our youngest child turned 26, this is about 7 years ago, I got a letter from our federal employee health insurance company that your child's turning 26 and she turned 26 in February that year. As of March 1st, she's no longer insured in the federal employee health insurance.
Mm-hmm.
So at that time, I had under my coverage myself, my wife, and my younger daughter. So when she no longer was enrolled in federal employee health insurance, I immediately filled out a form, as set to SF2809, requesting a change from self and family coverage to self plus one coverage. Who's the one? My wife. And the result was my premiums decreased because its premiums for self plus one are cheaper than self and family. So that was a change that was made outside of open season. And of course, if you want to change your FEHB plan from one plan to another, you can as a retiree during the open season, like you can as an employee.
Mm-hmm.
I want to point out that if you change your plan during the open season, then the effective date of your change, you change your plan, you'll be enrolled in a new plan as of the following January 1st. I'll give you an example. This year, the open season for federal employee health insurance will be held between November the 8th, 2022, and I believe it's December the 14th, 2022. You can change your FEHB plan. If you're an employee and you change your plan, your new plan takes effect on the first day of the new leave year, which is this year, believe it or not, is January the 1st. I'm sorry, January the 2nd, 2023. If you're a retiree and you change your FEHB plan during the open season, this coming open season, the coverage takes effect as of January 1st, 2023. I know that's just a day difference, but sometimes there is a big difference.
Sure.
Depending on when the first day of the new leave year is. That's an important difference.
No, that makes sense. So let's talk let's go a little deeper on the suspend. Why might somebody do that?
On the
suspending FEHB.
Why would somebody suspend? Okay.
Yep.
There are two possible reasons why someone could suspend their federal employee health insurance. And let me just say once again, when you suspend your federal employee health insurance, you're getting out of the FEHB program. You are retired, but you are allowed to re-enroll.
Yep.
You're not dropping your federal employee health insurance. And there are two possibilities here in which you'll be allowed, actually three possibilities in which you would be allowed to suspend your federal employee health insurance in retirement. And those three possibilities are, if you want to join what's called a Medicare Advantage plan. This is Medicare Part C, which I'm sure everyone is sick and tired of hearing about on the TV, all the ads right now. Okay.
Yep.
But I apologize. I have to bring it up again. I'm not Joe Namath. I'm not George Foreman. I'm not pushing the plans here.
Gotcha.
But let me say this, that the Medicare Advantage plans are for individuals who are enrolled in Medicare Part A and Medicare Part B. When you think of a Medicare HMO, you think of an HMO, the only thing that an HMO offers is medical benefits. Well, in the case of Medicare Advantage plans, you get you get medical benefits, dental, vision, prescription drug benefits. Some of these Medicare Advantage plans are very, very good. They've gotten attractive. The federal government did a great job in setting up these Medicare Advantage plans, which private insurance companies offer.
Okay.
So if somebody wanted to, a federal retiree over age 65 who was enrolled in Medicare A and B, they said, I'd like to try this out. I'd love to try Medicare Advantage and see how it works because, I like my federal employee health insurance, but I have some dental problems. I got some vision problems. And I have to enroll in separate dental insurance and separate vision insurance. If you're saying to me, I get everything under one roof, why not? I'll try it.
Got it.
So every year, Dan, Medicare has an open season. It's called the annual enrollment period, the open enrollment period, which is held between October 15th and December 7th, in which a federal retiree who's enrolled in Medicare A and B during the open season, which coincides almost the same time because the federal employee health insurance open season is from the second Monday in November to the second Monday in December. They could suspend their federal employee health insurance and enroll in a Medicare Advantage plan.
Gotcha.
And coverage would take effect the following January 1st.
Okay.
So the annuitant, the retiree, tries it out, doesn't like it in the course of the year. So the following open season, they disenroll. I should say during the annual enrollment period for Medicare Advantage is held every year. During that open season, they disenroll from the Medicare Advantage plan, and during the federal health benefits open season, they can re-enroll in the federal employee health insurance.
Gotcha.
I need to point this out though, and that is the federal employee health insurance plans offer Medicare Advantage plans. You don't have to go outside to join a private Medicare. You can have access to them within the federal employee health benefits program. Okay, we just wanted to point that out. Okay?
Gotcha.
All right, so that's reason number one. Reason number two is, and I hope this doesn't help. I hope this doesn't happen to any annuitant. The annuitant is so impoverished that they're going to apply for Medicaid, or they go to a state-sponsored program for medical assistance. So there are such state programs. The Medicaid program, nothing more than Medicaid the federal government gives money to the states to help impoverished citizens of the state buy health insurance. And like I say, I hope this never happens. But in case it does, a federal annuitant, it may be a possibility, could have a survivor annuitant whose income is so low they can't afford the federal employee health insurance premiums. They could apply for Medicaid under a state program. They could suspend their FEHB program and see what the Medicaid program or a similar state-sponsored program would offer them. And if that doesn't work out, they can re-enroll in the federal employee health insurance.
Gotcha.
And the third possibility here is if someone is a military retiree for active duty, or they retired from the reserves, then they could enroll in the federal employee health insurance when they're working for the federal government. And they decided when they retired, they want to keep their federal employee health insurance. But then in the course of retirement, they decide, well, let's try TRICARE. Let's go into TRICARE. They would suspend their federal employee health insurance in order to enroll in TRICARE or CHAMP VA or CHAMP US. Or sometimes the Peace Corps has a health insurance program also. And they could suspend it, again, the same way, and then try it out for a year or two, maybe don't like it, get back into the federal employee health insurance. Those are the three reasons one would be able to suspend their federal employee health insurance. Once again, doesn't work out, they can come back in.
Gotcha. And those changes are the first day of the month after the program receives it, correct?
That is correct.
Okay,
That's
got
correct.
it. Another one in there that's a wrinkle that most people would know about. You have a line about enrollment election by proxy. So talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, a retirement system. And we didn't mention this earlier, but there are actually 6 types of federal retirements out there. I mean, we talk about CSRS and FERS. The CIA has its own retirement system, and they're under the federal employee health, and they're all under the federal employee health insurance. You have the foreign service. These are all different types of federal retirements, but they're all under the same rules regarding the FEHB. Okay,
gotcha.
So whatever retirement someone is under, that person may not be able to make any enrollment decisions. Maybe they're temporarily disabled, and let's say it's open season, and a decision has to be made regarding their health insurance for the coming year. Well, if that person has appointed someone and given written consent and given written consent, appointing someone to make the decisions, OPM will accept that written authorization. So the person appointed can decide the person should go into a different health insurance plan.
Gotcha. Well, my wife is guardian for her handicapped sister. So that'd be an example of the proxy.
Absolutely. Okay. So if your wife wanted to change plans for her sister, she'd be able to do it during the open season.
Gotcha. Okay. And you also talk about, changes that could decrease who's covered. So decrease in FEHB program enrollment, and you covered 3 different ones there. The first thing we've already done, which is cancel or suspend, and we touched a little bit on the other 2, but why don't you talk about the change to self-only or change to a comprehensive medical plan that does not serve a court order? That's interesting.
Yes, one can change to self-only. Mm-hmm. Example: a individual is married, has their spouse on the FEHB, spouse dies, God forbid. And the person would now be able to, outside the open season, this is considered to be a life event, change from self plus 1 FEHB coverage to self only.
Yep.
Okay. Or another example would be, we have a survivor annuitant who is eligible to keep the federal employee health insurance because their spouse was deceased. They're getting a survivor annuity. We'll talk more about that here in a few moments. And the survivor annuitant has a child who's under the coverage. So the survivor annuitant has self plus 1 coverage, and then the child turns 26. That child is no longer eligible to stay on the federal health insurance. So the survivor annuitant will now switch to self only from self plus 1.
Okay.
And one can change from a more comprehensive medical plan to one that's less comprehensive. Now, there's an exception to that, though. Let's say a federal employee retires from federal service, is under a court order to give comprehensive health insurance to a child. The federal employee, now retiree, was married. They got divorced, and under a court order, the employee retiree has to provide health insurance for 1 or more children.
Got it.
Then, and this is part of a comprehensive medical plan under the federal employee health insurance. The employee, the retiree, cannot go to a less comprehensive plan because if the court order is still in effect.
Sure.
Okay. So
no, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So then up next, you talk about the FEHB program open season. We've talked about that a little bit. So we know the period that it runs, second Monday of November through the second Monday of December. But this is the place where if somebody's suspended, this is the time they're going to come back in. This is the time they're going to be able to make changes, correct?
That is correct.
Okay, gotcha. And the last thing you kind of touch on in this article is change in family status. So that's a little bit like a qualifying life event, correct?
Yes, and that can be done outside an open season. Annuitants, like employees, may change plans, options, or types of FEH enrollment when they have a change in family status under the same conditions as active federal employees. Okay. That means they can change FEHB program plans. They go one plan to another, different options, low deductible to high deductible, and type enrollment anytime beginning on the 30th day before they become eligible for Medicare. When I say become eligible for Medicare, when a federal retiree becomes age 65, they're eligible to enroll in Medicare.
Mm-hmm.
And when they enroll in Medicare Part A, the hospital insurance is free, but Medicare Part B, the medical insurance is not free. Most federal retirees do elect both Medicare Part A and Medicare Part B. And idea being that Medicare, A and B, it's called the original Medicare, will pay on average, Dan, about 60 to 80% of a federal retiree's medical, doctor, hospital, lab tests. Just to give you an example, I've been enrolled in Medicare now for, 6.5 years.
Yep.
I've been enrolled in Medicare A and B. I have my federal employee health insurance. Medicare has paid on average about 60 to 80% of my bills. And my federal employee health insurance has paid the other 20 to 40%, meaning I haven't paid a doctor or a hospital 1 cent in the past 6.5 years. Medicare is considered to be the primary payer. Okay.
Gotcha.
Now, when I present this during our FEHB, Medicare, and TRICARE webinars, one of the complaints, and I get this all the time, not only just during the webinars, and this is the complaint: Ed, why do I have to enroll in Medicare when I have my federal employee health insurance? Why do I have to pay for Medicare Part B when I'm paying my federal employee health insurance premiums? Well, in this way, everything will be paid 100%. I'm the prime example. And they say to me, I'm still irked. I'm really mad that I got to pay full premiums for FEHB and have to pay for Medicare Part B. Well, I say to them, you have a right to be irked. Well, do something about it. What do you mean do something about it? Well, because Medicare is paying 60 to 80% of your federal of your hospital, doctor, doctor bills, and lab tests. You don't need a more expensive FEHB plan.
Sure.
You can go to something cheaper. He said, well,
or a Medicare Advantage.
Go to Medicare Advantage.
Yep.
Right now I'm enrolled in a low deductible plan. Go to high deductible.
Yes.
Right now I'm enrolled in standard coverage. Go to basic because the premiums will be cheaper. And they say to me, it's now July. I have to wait till open season to make that change? No, because when you enroll in Medicare, within 30 days of enrolling in Medicare, you can change your FEHB plan to a cheaper plan, or your premiums will be reduced.
Yep.
So enrolling in Medicare, Dan, is considered to be a life event. So it's very important that you evaluate your coverage. Of course, when choosing any FEHB plan, when enrolling in Medicare, make sure that, of course, your doctors accept your FEHB coverage. Most do, particularly if it's a fee-for-service plan, but also for Medicare. Make sure that your doctor accepts assignment for Medicare. I say accepts assignment for Medicare. That means that whatever Medicare is going to pay the doctor will accept it, even though they're not getting paid their full price.
Gotcha.
This is all covered, Dan, during our FEHB Medicare and TRICARE webinar held every month.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We make sure we work those in. Ed, I know you've got an article that is going to be posting soon, which is rules for survivors to continue FEHB program family benefits. So I really want to make sure that we give that enough time, because there's some pretty chewy stuff in that. But I do want to touch on our way out of this one and just kind of reiterate the way we closed out our last podcast is, yes, you're paying attention to make sure that you're going to keep FEHB in retirement. Do not make the mistake of foregoing a survivor benefit to your spouse, because then, talk about a double whammy, triple whammy. Okay, they've lost you. That's bad. They've lost income from the federal pension. That's bad. And then to lose FEHB on top of it, that's really insult to injury. So, Ed, what are your thoughts on that? I am an apostle for survivor benefits where that comes in.
Dan, I don't cry much. I really don't. I'm generally a very happy person, very satisfied. But when I get, and this has happened over the years, when I get calls from emails from federal employees around the country, I should survivor federal employees, the spouses, surviving spouses. Mm-hmm. And they say, what do I do? What do I do now? What is my first step? My spouse just died. I said, well, you got to apply for your survivor benefits. What are you talking about? Well, you're entitled to a survivor annuity, a CSRS or FERS annuity. Oh, wait a minute. Something just occurred to me. My spouse asked me when he or she retired to sign this document that said I'm waiving the survivor annuity, because my spouse was told that he or she can substitute something for the survivor annuity and be much better off. The tears are streaming down my eyes because I have to give the bad news.
Yes.
This is inviting a disaster.
Yes.
For the surviving spouse. I want to say something else for those, particularly FERS employees. I'm sure most people listening today are FERS employees. When it comes to giving a survivor annuity, you have two choices.
Yes, you do.
You can give your spouse the maximum survivor benefit, which is 50% of your FERS annuity at the time of your death. Your spouse would get 50% of whatever you're getting at the time of death for the rest of his or her life. Or you can give your spouse what's called less than maximum, which is 25%.
Yep.
Please give your spouse the 50%.
Yes.
The reason I'm saying it is related to federal employee health insurance. Federal employee health insurance premiums are going to go up.
Yes.
Healthcare costs are going to go up in this country.
Yep.
We're now I like to say post-COVID. I'm not so sure about that. Inflation now is at a 40-year high. Healthcare costs have been rather tame in the past 5 to 10 years, but they're going to skyrocket. And the reason I'm saying give your spouse the 50%, because when you give your spouse that 25% benefit, they'll be able to keep the federal employee health insurance. And the only way they can pay their federal employee health insurance premiums is through their survivor annuity. There may not be enough survivor annuity to pay for the increasing costs of the federal employee health insurance. Please go ahead and give your spouse the 50%. Don't go cheap.
Sure.
Here. This is something you want to make sure that you want to be able to sleep at night knowing that when you pass away, your spouse, your loved one, will be taken care of.
Yep.
Believe me.
Yep. And folks, if you encounter this and you want a second opinion on it, reach out to me. I've been cutting these ideas up for my entire career because I've seen what happens when they don't work out. When they don't work out. So somebody's coming to you saying, you don't need a survivorship, you don't need a full survivorship, buy an insurance policy, do this, do that, do something else. It's called pension maximization. I don't believe in it. I've analyzed hundreds of them and found the holes every single time. So be very, 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 very wary, because if you got nothing out of these two podcasts, take this away. being able to stay in the federal employee health benefit program for life, whether you're an annuitant or a survivor, is a tremendous advantage. And the joke at Serving Those Who Serve is that I'm ready to stand out on a street corner in DC, holding a sign that will say we'll work 5 years for the Retirement Thrift Investment Board for healthcare. So if you're looking for a lively addition to your team over there at FRTIB, and you'd like somebody who brings his own podcast, so I can be a mouthpiece for you, I'm here. Would happily take a leave of absence from serving Those Who Serve for 5 years to serve the public trust, and also, full disclosure, to grab that FEHB. So my vote on anything related to pension max, be very, very wary. How about you, Ed? What's your last word on it?
My last word on it is that we talk about this during our life insurance webinar a little bit, life insurance, substitute life insurance. But I'd like to make one more plug here, Dan,
Please
with
do.
your permission.
Please do.
If you've never attended a survivor benefits webinar in which we do talk about the need to give a survivor annuity, particularly to a spouse, our next survivor benefits webinar will be held on August the 2nd.
Yep.
Between 9 a.m. and 12 p.m. We hold those webinars every other month. So the next one will be held in October.
Yep.
But it's very important that you learn not only about, employees learn about their benefits, but what they can pass on to survivors, one of which is the federal employee health insurance and the requirements to do so. And we just said, you got to give that spouse a survivor annuity.
Gotcha. And folks, be sure to tune in to the next podcast. We will be diving into the rules for keeping FEHB as a survivor, because that's important stuff. It's going to get its own article, its own podcast. So we'll be diving into that. Ed, as always, you are the man. Thank you for what you do, federal community. Thank you for what you do with us here at Serving Those Who Serve, and the way you teach your team. We're very grateful for that. Folks, that is a wrap. We are Serving Those Who Serve. Be sure to subscribe to this podcast on your YouTube channel or Spotify. Remember to share it with friends and strangers. Check us out on Twitter and LinkedIn. Don't forget those live webinars Ed mentioned. They are every single week. And we've got our core 4 that come up every single month. Sign up for one, sign up for all. That's at stwserve.com. You'll see the big webinar button. Hit it, and you'll see the whole menu. Guru will come to you, reach you where you are, teach you where you are, and serve you where you are. Share it with friends, share it with strangers, share it with enemies. They will thank you. Be sure to read Ed every week in the Fed Zone, fed-zone.com. You can also reach that at stwserve.com. So, for Ed, the crew at Serving Those Who Serve, and me, Dan Sipe, good luck, Godspeed. Don't forget to sign up for the weekly serving on your way out of here. And above all, remember, it's your FedLife. So please, 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 please make it a great one, because you deserve it. Stay well, everybody. We are out.
Thank you for listening to the FedLife podcast. Click the subscribe button below to be notified when new episodes become available. The information covered and posted represents the views and opinions of the guest and does not necessarily represent the views or opinions of Serving Those Who Serve or Raymond James. The content has been made available for informational and educational purposes only. The content is not intended to be a substitute for professional investing advice. Always seek the advice of your financial advisor or other qualified financial service provider with any questions you may have regarding your investment planning. Securities offered through Raymond James Financial Services Incorporated, member FINRA SIPC. Investment advisory services offered through Raymond James Financial Services Advisors Incorporated. Serving Those Who Serve is not a registered broker-dealer and is independent of Raymond James Financial Services.
Raymond James is not affiliated and does not endorse the opinions or services of any of the quoted professionals or their respective firms. Any opinions are those of Dan Sipe and not necessarily those of RJFS or Raymond James. This case study is for illustrative purposes only. Individual cases will vary. Raymond James is not affiliated with and does not endorse the opinions or services of the quoted professionals or their respective organizations.
Neither Raymond James Financial Services nor any Raymond James financial advisor renders advice on tax issues. These matters should be discussed with the appropriate professional. Investing involves risk, and you may incur a profit or loss regardless of strategy selected, including diversification and asset allocation.